بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا اللهم زدنا علما إنك أنت عليم حكيم اللهم اجعل هذه المحاضرة حجة لنا لا حجة علينا يا رب العالمين أما بعد. This evening, inshallah, this afternoon, or this evening, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be discussing gifts. The rules as it pertains to giving gifts to your children and Islam. We're going to come from one of the books, as an explanation, Sharh Umdat al-Talib, Nail al-Ma'arib, the Sheikh Abdullah Bassam, rahimahullah ta'ala. In it, first of all, it's important for parents to give gifts to their children when you can. However, if you have multiple children, how do you give gifts to one child without the other, so on and so forth? Are there rules in Islam that actually discuss giving gifts to your children? And if so, what are they? So here we're going to discuss Faslun fi Ta'dil fil Atiyya. This is a chapter that discusses being fair, what is determined to being fair with regards to giving gifts to your children. قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى يجب تعديل في العطية غير شيء تافة وذلك بين روافه بقرابة من إلى آخر الكلام. First of all, it is wajib, obligatory, to be just when you're giving gifts to your children. قال الشيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تعالى يجب تعديل في عطية أولاده على حسب ميراثه. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that it is obligatory to be just when giving gifts to your children ala hasab mirafihi, depending on their level and their status as it relates to Islamic inheritance. As it relates to Islamic inheritance. We're going to discuss that in a few. وهو مذهب أحمد, and this is the way of Imam Ahmed. فإن خص بعضهم لمعنى يقتضي ذلك. Let's say, for example, one parent specifies a child with a gift and not another child. Is that permissible in Islam? Yes or no? So with regards to that, we find that Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah ta'ala, he's of the position where he says, فَإِنْ خَصَّ بَعْضُهُمْ لِمَعْنَى يَقْتَضِي ذَلِكَ. Like, so for example, we have children. And some of our children, we want to give something to them and not the other ones for a specific reason. So here, it is mentioned that min hajatan. Let's say, for example, we have a child that has a need for something. In this case, they can be specified over the other children. Or zamanatan. Or for example, if they're blind. So we have a child that is blind or has needs. Then they're going to be specified in a way that some of the other children may not be specified. Or let's say, for example, we have children that have a lot of children and they need our help. In that case, as parents, then you're going to specify that particular child. And then they mention لِإِشْتِغَالِهِ لِلْعِلْمِ. Let's say, for example, you have 3 or 4 children, but one of your children is busy with knowledge, busy studying Islam or what have you. And you're going to aid and assist that child along that particular path. أو صرف عطية عن بعض ولده لفسقه. Let's say, for example, you might refrain from giving a child something due to his sins. Maybe your child or your son or your daughter is sinful. And you have other children, you give them something, you may refrain from that particular child because they have committed sins or disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it also mentioned, bid'atahu. Say, for example, you have a child, your child, he falls into innovation in the religion. And so because of that, you want to refrain giving something to that child due to his disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لِكَوْنِهِ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ بِمَا يَأْخُذُ. Or that child just disobeys Allah. You have a disobedient child. In this case, it is not, perhaps that child will not get the same gifts as some of the other children. قَالَ فِي الْإِنصَافِ. Insaf is one of the relied upon books of the school of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. He says, وَهَذَا قَوِي جِدًّا. Meaning that position of Imam Ahmad is a very strong position. وَقَدْ أَجْمَعْ عُلَمَاء. And the scholars, there is a consensus of many of the Salaf, or many of the ulama, عَلَى مَشْرُعِيَّةِ تَسْوِيَّةَ بَيْنَ الْأَوْلَادِ. So many of the scholars of Islam, they say that it is incumbent for a parent to be fair in giving gifts to their children. ولكن اختلفوا في وجوب مساواة بينهم فيها فذهب أحمد والبخاري والإسحاق والثوري والجماعة إلى وجوبها. So there is a difference of opinion among many of the scholars of Islam with regards to giving each child something the same thing, meaning musawat, the same thing across the board. ففيها فذهب أحمد. Imam Ahmad, Imam al-Bukhari, Ishaq ibn Rahuya, who was also one of the companions of Imam Ahmad, Sufyan al-Thawri, وَجَمَاعَةً إِلَى وُجُوبِهَا. And there's a group from among them that say that it is obligatory. It is obligatory. وَتَحْرِيمُ التَّفْضِيلِ وَتَخْصِيص بَيْنَهُمْ. And some of them also say that it is haram. It is haram to favor one child over the other child with a gift, or to specify one with a gift without the others. And they say that this is haram due to the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir fi Sahihain. Nu'man ibn Bashir in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. He says, قال أعطاني أبي عطية فقالت عمرة بنت رواحة لا أرضى حتى تشهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Nu'man ibn Bashir, he said that my father gave me a gift. My father gave me a gift. And so my mother فقالت عمرة بنت رواح, my mother, her name was Amra, she said, لا أرضى. She said, I will not be pleased. حتى تشهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, his mother said, I will not be pleased until you get the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam to come and be a witness over what your father has given you. So after that, the Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, فَأَتَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. And so they came to the messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. فَقَالَ إِنِّي أَعْطَيْتُ إِبْنِي مِنْ أَمْرَةَ بِنْتِ رَوَاحَةَ عَطِيَّةً. So Nu'man ibn Bashir, his father, he said, I gave my son a gift. فَأَمَرَتْنِي. And my wife, she told me that we should come to you, and tushhidaka, that you become a witness, Ya Rasulullah, that you become a witness over this gift that I've given my son. فَقَالَ. And so the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he replied by saying, قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْطِيتُ. He said, فَقَالَ إِنِّي أَعْطِيتُ إِبْنِي مِثْلَ هَذَا. قَالَ لَا قَالَ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَاعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ أَوْلَادِكُمْ. قَالَ رَجَعَ فَرَدَّ عَطِيَّتَهُ. Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, and there are numerous narrations of this, he said that he will not be a witness of this, and he told him to fear Allah. وَاعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ أَوْلَادِكُمْ. He said, fear Allah and be just between your children. Fear Allah and be just between your children. And then he said, return that gift back to take that gift back from your child and return it back again. Like, in other words, take that gift back from your child. Based on this hadith, the scholars of Islam, they mention many different fawaid, many different benefits from this particular hadith, and we will discuss some of them, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. ذهب الجمهور إلى أنها مستحبة فقط. الجمهور. Does anyone know what jumhur means? Have you heard this word before, jumhur? Does anyone know what that means? Huh? Huh? The grades? The grades of the scholar? Agreements. Okay. Of how many scholars?
Like a unanimous.
Unanimous? Does anyone agree with him with that? Huh? Unanimous? So when we hear someone say jumhur, that means unanimous. All of the scholars agree? Is that what that means? I'm asking. The both. So jumhur means the majority. However, if something is jumhur, does that mean that this is the position? Yeah, in other words, do any other ulama have positions that may be reputable, strong positions that is not considered the jumhur? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. طيب. It says ذهب الجمهور إلى أنها مستحبة. The majority of the scholars of Islam, salafan wa khalafan, they hold the position that it is recommended. It is highly recommended, but not wajib, to be equal when giving out gifts to your children. However, it's recommended. وَأَطَالُوا اِعْتِدَارًا عَنَ الْحَدِيثِ مَا لَا مُقْتَنِعْ فِيهِ. And in addition to that, even though we have a hadith that clearly says that, however, some of the scholars of the past, they did not take that same understanding from the hadith that it was obligatory. Rather, they took from this hadith that it was highly recommended and not obligatory. So a person might say, the hadith is very clear. Why would it be considered not haram when the Prophet ﷺ said, and in another narration he said, La ashhadu ala jawr or ala zur. Jawr. And the Nabi ﷺ said in another narration, I will not be a witness over oppression. And we also know in Islam, oppression is what? It's muharram. It's not permissible to oppress anyone. So, some people may say, well, how can you take from this hadith that it's only recommended when we have this hadith clearly says that it is oppression, and he said have someone else witness over it to the end of it. And this is because we find in other narrations, some of the Sahaba where they gave gifts and it may not have been equal. And we also understand from this that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ will not be unjust when it comes to giving gifts. And if there was something that was impermissible, they would not have went against that thing that was, they would not have done something that was considered to be impermissible intentionally. قال شيخ الإسلام رحمه الله تعالى, he mentions, Shaykh al-Islam, he says, الحديث والآثار تدل على وجوب العدل. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, he says that this hadith and athar, they show that it is wajib, it is obligatory for a person to be just when they give gifts to their children and other than them, or they give gifts to their children. It is an obligation to be just when giving gifts to your children. طيب. Fix this. طيب. وهناك نوعان من الإعطاء. So Shaykh al-Islam and some of the ulama of the past, they said there are two types. There are two types of giving. نوعان. Two types of giving. The first type is النوع يحتاجونه من النفقة في الصحة والمرض ونحو ذلك فالعدل فيه أن يعطى كل واحد ما يحتاج إليه ولا فرق بين محتاج القليل والكثير. So one of the things that we get here from one type is that if we have children that are in need of our assistance, في الصحة والمرض, whether they are sick or healthy, فالعدل فيه أن يعطى. So to be just with regards to your children in that realm is to give every single child that which they need, and it doesn't matter whether it's a lot or a little. It doesn't matter whether it's a lot or a little. Right? So it says, when a person gives a parent gives to their children and they say, ala hasaba mirathihim, according to their lineage or their inheritance. What does that mean? Does anyone know what that means? Huh? Give to your children according to their lineage and according to their lineage. What does that mean? Or their inheritance? Does anyone know what that means? Anyone? Huh? Right. فضل يا شيخ. al-fara'id. طيب. So, if you have a son and a daughter, huh? Do you give your son the same as your daughter, or the daughter the same as your son? Or how does that work? And this is according to some of the positions. How does that work? Does anyone know? Huh? للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. For the son, he gets double that portion of the daughter. And this is another issue. Somebody might say, well, wait a minute, I don't understand. If a man has a son and a daughter, or a woman has a son and a daughter, and the parent, the mother or father, passes away, how much does the son get and how much does the daughter get? The son gets twice the amount of the daughter. The son gets in al-Islam twice the amount of the daughter. So somebody might say, well, why is that? That doesn't seem fair. Huh? Does that seem fair? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it in the Qur'an. That's the first one. Huh? So the next question is, well, why? What's the wisdom behind that? The wisdom behind that is that the son, his obligation is to take care of his sister. That's his obligation. It's not the obligation for the sister to take care of her brother. واضح؟ يعني Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الرجال قوامون على النساء. The men are protectors and maintainers over the women. It doesn't just mean marriage. Huh? It also means brother over sister. So in this case, the brother or the son will get double the amount of the sister. And the sister is not required to take care of her brother, rather her brother is required to take care of her. طيب. فإن فضل بعضهم بأن أعطاه فوق إرثه أو خصه سوى وجوبا برجوع حيث أمكنه. In this case, we may find that a parent may give a child more than what they are allotted with regards to their inheritance. They may get more than that. أو زيادة مفضولة ليتساوى الفاضل وإعطاء المحروم ليساوي من خصصه. In some cases, as it mentions here, قال الشيخ عبد الرحمن السعدي رحمه الله تعالى, the son, let's say for example you have a child and you give him more than what they are supposed to get, then there are reasons behind that. And so some of the reasons that are mentioned is that a son, for example, في عمل والده له حالة عالية وهي. Say for example you have a son and he works for his parents. The son, he works for his parents or he works for his father. And to the end of it, it says, أن يسعى في خدمة والده. Let's say for example the son يسعى في خدمة والده. The son, he works hard to help his father. Now, in our society, that's something that's very rare. That children will, when they get older, they're concerned about their parents to that level. Huh? Is that rare or is that normal? It's rare. That's rare? Like, if it's rare, we have to ask ourselves why. Why is that rare? Huh? Why is it rare? Most people in here are parents and you have children. Are you teaching your children now to be respectful and dutiful to their parents? To honor their parents? To be respectful when they talk to their parents? To understand the status that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave their parents? And so here, it mentions that بِالْقِيَامِ بِأَعْمَالِهِ. So the child will do work for the parents to make sure they are fine. يَرْجُو ثَوَابَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. That child is doing this, taking care of his parent, or the parent is taking care of the child, or the vice versa. First of all, the child is looking for the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second thing that child is doing, and you have to teach that, this is education. For example, when we lived in Mecca, we would see sons, when their fathers would come in, they would walk up to their father and kiss their hand and their forehead. This was normal. It wasn't something strange, but when I first saw this, I was like, whoa, this is different. The children would kiss their father's hand and kiss their forehead. Kiss their father's hand and kiss their forehead. This is almost everyone there. And if you didn't do that, it was a sign like, someone thought something was wrong with the child. If they didn't do that. All of the children, when they see their parents, their fathers, they'll kiss their fathers on their hand and kiss their foreheads. Even the children of the mashayikh do the same thing. When they see their parent, they will come kiss their hand and kiss their foreheads, out of respect and the status that their parents had. طيب. So it also mentions here, وَبِرَّ بِوَالِدِهِ وَإِخْوَانِهِ. He also would do this to aid his parent, his father or his mother or his siblings. وَلَهُ حَالَةٌ أُخْرَى وَلَا حَرَجْ عَلَيْهِ فِيهَا وَهِيَ أن يعتقد مع والده عقدا إجارة شهرية أو سنوية أو يومية فهذا يكون مثل الأجير. Let's say, for example, that one son, and he works for his parents, and he writes a contract with his parents, and he stays in their house, but they may give him some money for helping them or assisting them, so on and so forth. That child is being specified by giving money to or whatever outside of the other children. However, this is due to a need. This is due to a need that the parents have. In this hadith, another benefit that we can get from this hadith is that it is permissible for a father to return on a gift that they gave their children. It is permissible for a father to return a gift that he gave his children or his son. طيب فإن مات واحد قبل الرجوع أو زيادة ثبتت عطية لآخذ. Let's say, for example, that father gave his son a gift and he wanted to take it back. The father has a right to take that gift back. In fact, we're going to discuss that in another portion, inshallah ta'ala, dealing with the hadith with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Anta wa maluka li abik. You and your wealth belong to your father. You and your wealth belong to your father. So someone may look at that and wonder, how's that? When the mother, all these different hadith about the piety and the virtue that a child should show the mother. No doubt. As the man, he asked the Prophet ﷺ, Abarru ma'amen. And he said, Ummak, thumma man, ummak, thumma man, ummak, thumma man, abik. When the man came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, who should I be more piety? Who should I have all my piety for and honor and serve? Who should that person be? The first thing that was mentioned was his mother. And then he said, thumma man. Okay, after my mother, then who? Your mother. Thumma then. Okay, after my mother, and then who? Your mother. Thumma man. And then after the mother, he said it 3 times, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he mentioned the father. So then, with regards to children honoring their parents, the mother has a higher status over the father. We have a hadith that clearly stipulates that. However, with regards to finances, if somebody needs money, the father has a higher status than the mother in that case. لماذا? لأن النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, أنت ومالك لمن لأبيك. He said, you and your wealth belong to your father. You and your wealth belong to your father. Now, having said all of that, we're going to mention some principles as it relates to that. We're going to mention some principles as it relates to that that will make that issue somewhat easy to understand. In general, with regards to giving gifts to our children, we should be just in giving gifts to our children. We should not pick out one child over the other child unless there is a reason for doing so. Let's say, for example, each child, they have very specific needs. Each child has very specific needs. Perhaps this child needs sneakers, the other one doesn't. You're not going to buy sneakers for everyone. The rest have shoes. Perhaps this child needs clothes, the other one doesn't. So you're not going to buy clothes. You understand? You see how that works. But it has to do with a gift. Just a general gift. You say you're thinking about your children today. I want to buy my child a gift. and all of them all have gifts, you can't pick one child out to buy him a gift over the others. Even to the point when we studied Islamic inheritance, Sheikh Abdullah al-Mani'i, he's from the major scholars of Saudi Arabia, he taught us Islamic inheritance. He said to us, if a person has a wasiyah, al-wasiyah, does anyone know what a wasiyah is? Huh? A wasiyah, ya ikhwan wa akhwat, is a will. Okay? They say, la wasiyata lil warith. You cannot leave a will to any of your children that inherit. Why is that? Because their inheritance is already spelled out in Islam. It's already spelled out. But the will aspect of it is not spelled out. And so he mentioned that many of the ulama make an exception, except by the permission of the other inheritor. So say, for example, if you wanted to give your child a house, you want to write a will, leave your son a house, or your daughter a house. And they all have houses, but you want to leave this one the house. Huh? So if you write in your will to leave this one the house, they say that in general it's not permissible unless you get the permission of the other children. And they say, okay, fine, we don't have a problem with that. Sheikh al-Mani'i, he mentioned to us, this is still a problem because most children, if they're honorable children, they're respectful children, they're going to comply with the wishes of the parent anyway. Even though deep down inside they may feel some type of way. Even though deep down inside that child may feel some type of way about it because their parent picked one of them over the rest. But yeah. And lastly here, this last part here, with regards to spending the wealth of your children. So we spoke briefly, and this is brief because there's a lot more detail about this topic. I didn't want to go too deep into the subject. With regards to giving gifts or taking the wealth of your children, what do you have a right to as a father, and what do you not have a right to? Right. So it says, وَلِلْأَبِّ دُونَ الْأُمِّ. The first thing they mentioned, for the father, not the mother. The ulama of the past specify this. For the father, not the mother. أَنْ يَتَمَلَّكَ مِنْ مَالِ وَلَدِهِ مَا شَاءَ. That the father can take whatever wealth from his child, whatever he wants. مَا حَاجَةً لِلْأَبِّ وَعَدَمِهَا. Whether the father needs it or he doesn't need it. The father can take the wealth of his children whether he needs it or he doesn't need it. فِي صِغَرِ وَلَدِهِ أَوْ كِبَرِهِ. Whether the child is young or the child is old. وَسَخَطِهِ وَرِضَاؤُهُ. Whether the child is angry about it or the child is happy about it. وَبِعِلْمِهِ وَبِغَيْرِ عِلْمِهِ. And they can take it with the child knowing about it or the child not knowing about it. وَهَذَا بِخَمْسَةِ الشُّرُوطِ. And this only can be done based off of 5 conditions. There are 5 conditions that must be met in order for the father to do that. In order for the father to do that. الأول, the first condition, أن يكون ما يتملكه الأب فاضلا عن حاجة الولد وأن لا تتعلق به حاجته كآلة حرفة ورأس مال التجارة. And so it mentions here that the first condition is that أن يكون ما يتملكه الأب فاضلا, that whatever the father decides to take is extra on top of what that child needs to sustain himself or herself. In other words, you cannot take your children's rent money or their mortgage or the car payments or whatever else that child has to sustain himself, grocery bills, money. You cannot take what the child needs to sustain him or herself. وَإِنْ لَا تَتَعَلَّقَ بِهِ حَاجَتُهُ. And it can't be something that he needs. For example, if he's a businessman, you can't take his investment money that he's using for business, or her investment money that she's using for business. الثاني, the second condition, أَلَّا يُعْطِيَهُ الْأَبْ لِوَالِدِهِ آخَرٍ. You cannot take money from your son. That's extra. You're going to take that money and you're going to turn around and give it to your other child. You're not going to take money from one child and give that money to another child. Is that clear? واضح? طيب. الثالث, the third condition, أن لا يكون في مرض أحدهما المخوف. You cannot take the money of your child if he is sick with a sickness on the verge of death. Does anyone know why? Huh?
That might be for inheritance for his
Ahsant. The reason why you can't take your child's money when they're sick, on the verge of death, because everything at that point in time is almost as if he passed away. So much so that if he was married to a woman that he didn't like, let's say for example, he's married to a woman and your son divorced her 2 times. And he's on his deathbed, he's very sick. And he says, you know what? I don't want her getting any of my inheritance. I'm going to divorce her right now to get her out the way, because the 3rd divorce she's done. She no longer has any right to anything that he owns. But if he divorced her with a 2nd or 1st divorce, as long as she's in her iddah, as long as she's in her iddah, and he dies while she's in her iddah, a raj'iyya, the type of iddah that he can take his wife back, then she is still entitled to his inheritance. Wadi akhwan? Is that clear? So then, if he dies in this state and his wife is in iddah al-raj'iyya, meaning he can take her back, then she is entitled to his inheritance all the way up until her iddah is complete. So in this case, back to the son, if he's sick and on the verge of death, you cannot take that money, because that money there is what? Is for the inheritance, the inheritors. Likewise, if he is sick like this, it is not permissible to divorce your wife if you're in that condition. If a person is in maradul maut, if he's on the brink of dying, and he wants to divorce his wife because he does not want her to have a part of his inheritance, it is not permissible for him to divorce her. It is not permissible for him to divorce her, because the sole purpose of him divorcing her now is to remove her from the inheritance. Is to remove her from what? From the inheritance. But the 4th condition, أن لا يكون الأب كافرا والولد مسلما. If the father is not Muslim, he does not have the same rights over his children as if the father was Muslim. In other words, if the father is Muslim and the son is if the father is not Muslim and the son is Muslim, he does not have the right to take his money. He does not have the right to take his money. Al-khamisu, the 5th one, أن يكون ما يتملكه الأب بقدر معقول تملكته ونحوه أو بقرينة التملك. The next condition, or the last condition here, is that when the father actually takes the money, he must make it clear to his son that or has to be known that he took the money. In other words, I took your $20,000, or that it's known that $20,000 was taken by the father for whatever he needed, and he needs to it needs to be known that the money was taken. It needs to be known that the money that he has grasped the money, that he has taken possession of the money. He has to take possession of it. And what that means is he cannot buy something without taking possession of his son's money. You have to take possession of it first before you go out and purchase something. Now mind you, all of this is for the father that is adil, the father that is just. Obviously, a person may look, most fathers, they're in their children's lives and they raise their children. They're not going to oppress their children. In fact, most fathers in our society may not even want to take anything from their children. Rather, they just want to give. Even if they need it, they probably wouldn't ask their children for any help or assistance anyway. And it's part of being a righteous child. You're going to always look out for your parents, as that is your obligation as a child, to always look out for your parents. And lastly, in Islam, something that is very important. In our society, the obligation of a parent to take care of their children is up to what age? 15? You say 15. In Islam, the obligation of taking care of your children is up to what age? I'm sorry, outside of Islam. In our society, what is it? 18, huh? Right. In Islam, what's the obligation? Does anyone know? Lifetime. There's a lifetime obligation. But what about the children taking care of their parents? Lifetime. It's a team. There's no age limit on when a child has to stop being taken care of by their parents. In other words, the parent's responsibility is to take care of their children up until they die. The children's responsibility is to take care of their parents up until they die. It's never, you are never relieved in Islam and say, okay, if your parents are struggling, and Let's say, for example, your father or your mother, you say, son, I need money to help with some bills. So, okay, mom, give her some money. So make sure you give me that back next month. Look. Your father say, look, son, I need some money for this bill. And yes, the son gives the father some money for a bill. They say, oh, Dad, by the way, next week, I need that back. Not. You don't do that. That's your responsibility. That's your responsibility to take care of your parents. And likewise, the parents taking care of their children. And the last thing here, وَإِن مَاتَ الْوَلَدُ فَلَيْسَ لِوَرَثَتِهِ مُطَالَبَةُ الْأَبِ بِدَيْنٍ وَنَحْوِ لِمُوَرِّثِهِم. The last piece here, if, let's say for example, the son died. Here's the scenario. The son, or the father says to his son, look, son, let me get a couple $1,000. Let me get like $3,000 or $4,000. Now, when the son gives that money to the father, the wife is going to be pissed. So why are you giving your father all this money? Some of them, inshallah, if she's solid hot lot, she's going to say, no, give it to him. That's his rights. Huh? If she's not, she's going to be mad. Oh, why you keep giving your dad all this money? So you're going to give your father this money, right? Once you give your father that money, and the father says, yes, son, I'll give it back to you next month, or I'll give it back to you. The wife, she heard that, right? And the son dies. Huh? I say the son dies before the father gave that money back to him. He says that it is impermissible for that woman and her children to go requesting that money from the father after the son passed away. Well, is that clear? And that shows the status of the father in al-Islam. The status of the father in al-Islam. Now, Sheikh Tafadhal.
What about if you have a stepson that you have raised from 2 years old all the way up into adulthood?
Tayyib. So the Sheikh asks, what about a stepson? What's the question about him?
Do he receive that same
inheritance?
I know that he doesn't inherit.
Do you have a right to his money?
Yes.
La, laysa walad. He's not your son.
Right.
Ya ikhwan. When it comes to these issues of the Sharia, it's very specific. It mentions your son. Anta wa maluka li abik. You and your wealth belong to your father. You, for a stepson, you are not that child's father.
Right.
So you cannot say, well, since I raised up, you can't make that qiyas. You can't make that analytical deduction and say, well, then since I raised him, so you may be like his father in terms of what you provide for him and do for him, but legislatively, Islamically, you're not his father. Meaning, when you die, he does not inherit from you. But if you want to leave him something, you can, but you must put it in your will, and it can't be more than 1/3 of all of your net worth. If you want to leave your stepchildren something, if you pass away, then you must leave them 1/3, and it cannot be. It has to be 1/3 of your worth. 1/3. It cannot exceed that. It cannot exceed 1/3. Like, any other questions? Now, tafadhal.
For years on there, I give money readily to my mother. My father may ask.
Your father may ask you for money?
And I shot him down and said, no, I got to.
Your dad's Muslim?
Yes.
A'udhu billah.
Yeah.
Taqillah ya rajul.
And I gave it to my homies, using the same thing to read them up. But he had the right.
No doubt. No doubt. Your father needed money, you told him no?
No, he did.
Fair law, brother. Fair law, man. Go get your dad that money right now. Huh? That's his rights. That's disobeying your parents. That's harming them. Your father has rights on you. That's your son?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a young brother. Okay. Yes, do you have any sons?
No.
Okay. If Allah bless you with sons, imagine your son's doing that to you. Imagine that. You need it. Oh, cool. Oh. How would you feel?
And give it to over the buck.
How would you feel? Feel some type of way, right? Absolutely. Like, any other questions? Huh? You good? Oh, yeah. Class, we're going to start with that. The Sheikh is coming after me. Huh? بعد المغرب ولا؟
اظن المناقيس
يعتلين؟ خلاص
نحن بعد الصلاه والله اعلم. هو الشيخ محمد سيد.
خلاص خلاص. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.